This time on the Coach's Cut, Coach Tice gives out his grades for the trade deadline, plus mid-season awards. Also, the only Raiders cap you need after that Thursday night loss, and Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell joins the show. All that and so much more coming up right now. All right, so a Thursday night showdown on Amazon Prime filled with penalties rather than action. The Raiders fall to the Broncos in an ugly one, 10-7. Now the Broncos hold the NFL's best record at 8-2, while the Raiders are left sitting at 2-7, wondering what they have. So, Coach, what did you take away from last night's game?
Well, I'm firstly disappointed in a one-score game, a very close game, a tied game for a while there. I didn't see one team with 35-plus rushing attempts. I saw throws. I saw, 20-something carries by each team. Again, a turnover. We did win the turnover battle. It didn't help us because the Raiders did not win the game. But it was ugly football. And at the end of the day, you try in those ugly games to let the other team beat themselves, and the Raiders did not do that.
And like you told me even before the show started, you said Coach Pete Carroll said prior to the game in press conferences he wanted to run the ball. That was the game plan. So how does it get away from a coach like that?
Well, impatience, and that's all I can say about it. Impatience. You're in a close game like that. You want to make big plays. You want to make a difference. 6 sacks. You're out there throwing the ball all over the schoolyard. 6 sacks. It's not a good night.
Okay, now how much of the blame as you're watching this game, because I think a lot of average fans like me think a lot of this is on the quarterback play in Geno Smith. What's your take?
Well, the team goes as the quarterback goes. It's not going to change. When we talk about great teams in our show, we start with the quarterback. Everything starts with the quarterback. The quarterback, to this point of the season, has not performed at a winning level.
Okay, it's simple as that. Now, let's shift to this because 7 points, you would think they could use some offensive players, some playmakers. So last week, the Raiders traded away their top wide receiver target in Jacoby Myers to the Jaguars. They got 2 late-round picks in return. So what did you think of that move, Coach, and how much were they missing him last night?
Well, you say they need playmakers, but they also need a clean locker room. You need a locker room where there's harmony. You hear about these teams and you'll hear about Kevin O'Connell talk about the locker room in the Viking land. That's not the type of locker room that breeds winning.
Right.
And I'm not talking about the good locker room, the bad locker room. And so Jacoby Myers was that A.J. Brown for the Raiders.
He just kept requesting trades.
And so get him out. If you don't want to be here, get out. So he went to the Jaguars, and it was a pretty decent trade for the Jaguars.
What's your grade for that?
I'd give them a B+ on that. We're going to talk about a couple of the trades here in a second, but I'd give them a B+ because Brian Thomas is a drop waiting to happen.
Yeah.
He's got tremendous number of drops, and Brian Hunter is hurt. So,
right.
Travis Hunter is hurt. So they need people, and so they get a guy that has, received 1,000 yards. He caught 1,000 yards in reception yards. And get him somewhere where maybe he's happy. He went to NC State, get him back over there in the ACC land and see what happens.
All right, now let's move to some other blockbuster trades around the league. Let's start with your buddy, GM Chris Ballard with the Colts. He made the deal for superstar cornerback Sauce Gardner. He traded away 2 first-round picks, Chris Ballard. He also traded away A.D. Mitchell, the guy who's making a lot of mistakes the past few weeks. So what grade do you give your buddy Chris Ballard for acquiring Sauce Gardner?
Well, I got to give them an A. And the reason I give them an A is it's a blockbuster trade, one of the best corners in the league, defensive rookie of the year, 2-time All-Pro. He's playing in a system that suits him in New York, but he's playing in a team that is not very good. So the Jets did a good job getting them out of there and getting some draft capital. And, of course, the Colts, who are not bad in sacking the quarterback and rushing the quarterback, but they are not very good in the secondary in giving up defensive passing yards. So this is a good move for them. When you're playing with the lead, teams are going to throw the ball against you. So getting a corner is a good thing. Okay,
I like to see that. Now to another key trade, this time for the Seahawks. GM John Schneider trades with the Saints to get wide receiver Rashid Shaheed, a true burner, and now they just add more offense to a team that's already loaded. Coach, people in Seattle on social, they're already calling it the Legion of Zoom rather than the Legion of Boom. What's your grade on this trade?
Well, I gave them a B+, but then the more I researched it, it could be an A because they already lead the league in 20-yard receptions at 34. They already lead the league in 40-yard receptions at 7. And I saw a stat after I wrote this down. Rashid Shaheed has got the most 50-yard receptions since 2023. You talk about the Legion of Zoom. Here we go, down the field. And the good thing is they're not giving up a lot of sacks and they're throwing the ball all over the house. And Darnold, to this point, has not thrown a lot of interceptions.
Pairing him with Jackson, Smith, and Jigba, it's going to be good stuff ahead for Seattle. All right, guys, we're just getting started here on the Coach's Cut with Mike Tice. Next up, guess what? Coach Tice is talking with the head coach of the Vikings. The QB whisperer, Kevin O'Connell, joins the show after the break.
This week, I'm joined by the current head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, Kevin O'Connell, to talk about this week's matchup with the Ravens and his young quarterback, JJ McCarthy. Let's take a listen. So let's talk a little bit about the quarterback. God, he's had coaching at the highest level in college with Jim, who wins the national championship. You draft him. You got to have a chance to nurture him and bring him along. I mean, that third down throw late in the game last week was just money. The guy's been through the wars. He's been through the battles. He's had to deal with getting coached by Jim Harbaugh. What is it? What is it about JJ that really excites you about coaching him?
Well, I think you have to start out with a lot of the things that have to do with his makeup. This guy loves football. He's competitive. He works at it. He's smart. He's clearly tough from, mentally and physically from some of the, the injuries he's had to deal with, missing quite a few games here early on in his career. But then the mental toll of that, young players that want to develop and you want to bring them along. It's hard to do that when they're not on the field. So what's been the best about it is JJ he wants to make up for a lot of time lost. But the most important thing is getting him on the field now and getting him these opportunities, coaching him up every day. Josh McCown's doing a great job in the quarterback room with him. I spend a lot of time with him, and like probably Jim did at Michigan, just, overall, just you want to be around the guy. He's got that type of personality where a lot of the guys in the locker room, as you've seen after these wins, they gravitate towards him. He's authentically himself, and I think he's got some real genuine leadership qualities. Now, there's a lot of things in regards to the quarterback development journey that, if you could just snap your fingers and, be ultimately what you're inevitably going to become right now, there'd be a lot more people than just 32 guys in the world doing it. And there'd be a lot of people that would want to be NFL quarterbacks. It's the hardest job in sports. There's so many layers and levels to the position. And what we're just trying to do is strip away a lot of the things that we can that, anything that takes away from the development of JJ, coaching him, technique, fundamentals, between the ears, how he runs the show, runs our offense. We're trying to strip all that away and make it just about that stuff. And the best part about him is you can do that because those intangibles are going to continue to carry him through from a leadership standpoint and a work ethic standpoint. So excited about, obviously, he's 2-0 in the division on the road in one of the hardest divisions in football. The way I look at it, Coach, we need to if we get consistency out of JJ, just doing his job, just taking the right footwork, having great fundamentals and technique. He's got the physical talent, both athletically and as a thrower, to do everything and more that we need him to do in this offense for it to go. And I just can't wait to keep seeing him build upon that as we go here.
So last thing, I'm sorry, I got to talk a little bit about the game. We didn't really want to talk too much about the game coming up. You're fortunate to have the opportunity this week to play against last week's AFC Offensive Player of the Week, Lamar Jackson and that bunch, and Derrick Henry. You guys are doing a really great job of getting off the field on third down defensively, doing a great job of making them kick field goals in the red zone too. Two big stats that I look at. What else you got to do this week to get to 5-4?
Yeah, I think, we were able to, we've talked a lot about the injuries on the offensive line, but I think getting Andrew Van Ginkel back last week was huge. When you have him and Harrison Smith out there at different levels of your defense, you get such a high level of football IQ that it almost calms the whole group, down, and allows those guys to play fast and physical and not come off playing like they're very calm because they're playing with their hair on fire because they can totally turn it loose. Baltimore is a very unique challenge, and it is a massive challenge. It all starts with Lamar. It all runs through Lamar Jackson. He's one of the best at the position in all of football. They're always physical. They can run the football a variety of different ways out of different big personnel groupings. They've got one of the biggest, most effective fullbacks in the NFL. They've got tight ends that block. And then you get to Derrick Henry, who at any point in time is not just a bruising physical runner. He can take it the distance on any one particular snap. And then they've got skill players who are dynamic with the ball in their hands. And some of the most challenging plays can be when Lamar is able to get out and cause havoc, late in the down with his arm or his legs. And so when I look at it, I think it's still going to start for our defense with some principles that we were able to make come to life against a really good offense in Detroit, which was principles of knockback, defeat and blocks, setting edges, making it hard as we possibly can in the run game for Baltimore. And then when the second phase of that's got to play with that is ultimately finding a way to still get a rush plan, still affect Lamar Jackson enough in that pocket to maybe move him off the spot. But maybe unlike last week, where when we could get the quarterback moved off the spot, maybe we weren't as threatened by the off-schedule play. This week's going to be about moving him off the spot, and it might not necessarily be the guy that did that makes the play. It's got to be the next guy, and it's got to be 3, 4, 5 purple hats getting to the ball and making sure while we're doing that, we're staying sticky in coverage down the field on some real weapons, guys that can change the game in a lot of different ways. So it's going to be a challenge. Flo and his staff do a tremendous job kind of reinventing themselves every week within the principles of our defensive system to try to make sure we do what it takes to win the game and give our team a really good chance. Because the way you've got a young quarterback and you've dealt with some injuries here and there, specifically on the offensive line side, our defense has to be, a fence post for us. They got to be that bell cow group that can allow us to play well as a team by them being the tempo and the tone setters whenever they possibly can. And then when we need to, like we did early in the game, respond and go put the ball in the end zone offensively, we need to do that. And I'm still waiting, Coach, for our most complete game yet of the season where there's no let up, there's no, very limited mental errors, limited penalties, no turnovers, and we just play clean football with the guys we have on the field now at this point in the season. I'd like to take a look at what that looks like and see where we end up on a day like that. So that's what we're challenging the guys to do, and working very hard to try to get that done. I got a great group. You would love this group, man. The makeup of this team. They've got a ton of fight in them. They play for each other. And these guys are going to continue to grow and hopefully ascend throughout the season, because that's what this thing's all about is trying to continue to fight the fight, battle adversity, and then see if you can be a really great version of whatever team dynamic and characteristics you have. Be the best version of that when it really matters towards the end of the season.
Thanks so much for Kevin for taking time out of his busy schedule to join us. You can see the full interview on our YouTube page at Silver State Sports.
All right, after the break, Coach Tice is giving out his mid-season awards from MVP to Coach of the Year and so much more. Coach is ready to give out some hardware. All right, welcome back to the Coach's Cut with Mike Tice. I'm Mike Davis. So, Coach, it's time to go through your mid-season awards. I love giving out some awards. So first up, we got a new award in the NFL this year. It's for Protector of the Year, which goes to the best offensive lineman. That's your forte. So we got to start with that before MVP, before anything. So we got to start with that. Who is your Protector of the Year award?
Well, I have to give it to Joe Alt of the San Diego Chargers because he's on IR. And at the halfway point, he's the only offensive lineman in the National Football League to grade out in the top 5 in pass protection, and run blocking.
Wow.
The only one. So he deserves it. He can't get it for the season because he's on IR now. So let's give it to Big Joe now.
I love it. Big guy from Notre Dame. You got to love him. Not a lot of tackles can do both pass and run blocking well. So, all right, now we have comeback player of the year. Who deserves comeback player of the year after 9 weeks of play?
Well, it's got to be Danny Dimes of the Indianapolis Colts, who have one of the top records in the National Football League after 9 weeks. He's done an outstanding job. Took a little step backwards last week. We'll ask Chris Ballard, the general manager of the Colts, who's going to be our guest next week, what he thinks about Danny Dimes.
Yeah, I'm sure they love him a lot. After shipping off those 2 first-rounders, they got to think he's the QB of the future. All right, so now offensive player of the year. Who are you giving that award out to?
Well, we're going to stay with those Indianapolis Colts and the Wisconsin Badger, Jonathan Taylor, who leads the league in rushing and has 12 rushing TDs at the halfway point. Insane, Michael.
It's crazy. Even last year, people thought Saquon was having a good year. He's even having a better year than he had.
Unbelievable, right, Mike?
It's good stuff there in Indianapolis. Excited to have Chris Ballard on next week. All right, so, Coach, I'm excited to see what you think about this. Offensive rookie of the year. Who do you have?
Well, I got your guy because you've been talking about him at almost every show.
Yeah.
Emeka Egbuka
Yes.
from the Tampa Bay Bucks, who are coming off a bye this week. It should be a great week for them. And he's done an outstanding job. 34 catches, 500 and some odd yards, but he's got 5 reception TDs so far at this point.
Yeah, he finds ways to get in the end zone. You got to love that wide receiver from Ohio State. All right, this is a good one. MVP. Who's your MVP for the midseason?
Well, I've seen a lot of reports, and my son Nate goes against me on this one. I say the league MVP is Matthew Stafford.
Wow.
Yes, of those Los Angeles Rams. Matthew's off to a great start. He's got 21 TDs, but more importantly, he's got 2 interceptions at the halfway point. And of course, they're 6-2, one of the top records in the NFC.
It's amazing. You almost have to give it to a quarterback. Is that how you feel?
Yes.
Can you even, because
Yes.
people say Jonathan Taylor could
Yes.
get it, even Myles Garrett, but you got to give it to a QB.
I'm with you.
Okay, that's how it goes. All right, and lastly, we got to know who Coach thinks is the midseason Coach of the Year award. Who do you have for that?
Well, I think this is the obvious pick around the country. It's Shane Steichen. Again, this is the 3rd award for the Indianapolis Colts. What a tremendous job he's done to this point. He's made all the right decisions. I did see, unfortunately for them this week, we'll throw this in there, DeForest Buckner just went on IR, so that's going to be a tough.
Wow.
That's going to be tough for them moving forward, but he's done a tremendous job.
Yeah.
My hat's off to him.
The Colts have done such a nice job this year. Of course, for locals here, Shane Steichen was a guy, played quarterback at UNLV, was a dude here. Of course, he did a lot of good stuff in Philadelphia, getting them to the Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
And crafting that offense with Jalen Hurts. But, Coach, we might have a little bit of time here. Do you want to give us any of your defensive?
Yeah. So Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
I mean, he's on the number 2 total defense in the league. That's in passing yards and rushing yards. He's got 10 sacks at the halfway point. That is outstanding. I would give that to Myles Garrett.
Okay, yeah. I think a lot of people are in unison with that. And any other defensive categories?
Yeah, I want to give you one. I don't know if anyone else is going to put this guy up there, but Defensive Rookie of the Year, I'm looking down so I pronounce his name right, Carson Schwarzenegger.
Yes, yeah.
From
Schwarzenegger.
Thank you. From UCLA, he's a linebacker. He's got 64 tackles, 1 sack, 4 TFLs, and 1 pick at the halfway point. That's my defensive rookie.
I love it. And you know what? You're a smart dude because Bill Barnwell from ESPN, he's got the same thing, I believe. He's a big Carson Schwarzenegger guy.
Oh, that's an ace
linebacker from UCLA. It's a shame because Cleveland, everybody was talking about Shedeur Sanders, all draft long with them, but they got a stud at linebacker
They sure do, Michael.
All right, great awards there, Coach. I want to see a trophy next season for these, like an actual trophy. I want you to hand it to me, maybe. All right,
I got some old ones in my closet. We can change the nameplate.
Okay, there you go. Good. All right, coming up after the break, it's time for Odds and Ends. All right, welcome back. I think that would be a good graphic for the trophy. I like you on the horse. That would be good for the trophy.
I mean, I have more hair on that graphic.
A little bit more. Come on, let's not go crazy here. All right, so let's start with odds and ends, turnover differential. What happened in Week 9?
Well, Week 9 was a little different than we've seen. Teams that were +1 or better, Mike, were just 9-4, and there were some anomalies out there. 3 of the teams that won of those 4 teams had 30-plus rushes, and they won the time of possession. So that just shows, again, going back to run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. As we get later in the season, I think that run the ball stat is going to show up more and more.
Like you always say and tell me, Nate, your son, Tice, always asks you, how do you impact the turnover differential?
Right.
You see it right there, running the ball.
Yeah, exactly right, Mike.
All right, I love that. Okay, now let's look at the full season turnover differential, because that was just week 9. What is a full season?
Well, through 9 weeks, it's just glaring more and more. +3 or better through week 9. You'll see it up on the graphic. You'll see the top teams. Teams that are +3 or better, 62, Mike, and 36.
Wow.
And teams that are -3 or worse are 55, 83, and 1. So it shows up. You see the graphics there. Nice job by James and our staff. Just week in and week out, Mike.
All right, and now let's talk about the bye week. I know you always like to talk about teams coming off the bye. What do you got there?
I like to see, because we know Andy Reid is the greatest ever coming out of the bye. So far, all the teams that have had a bye, there's been 14 teams that have had a bye. The records are 10-4 coming out of the bye. So the bye week has really helped more teams than it's hurt, obviously. It's allowed teams to get healthy, i.e. the Vikings and their quarterback. And, I'm just looking forward to seeing as we progress through the rest of these buys how things go.
Okay, all right. Last thing. I think we always need a coaching moment from you. Maybe we got to start a new segment. What's this quote you got for us? Tell everybody at home.
Well, the
30
NFL
seconds.
season is a long season. We talked about that. It's not a sprint. And so it's a rough road that leads to the heights of greatness.
Wow.
So it's not going to be easy. You heard Kevin O'Connell talking about it, the NFL season. The NFL season is long and it's tough.
All right, you heard it there from Coach. Thanks so much to everybody, producer James, editor Jess, Daphne, and Ryan with production. I'm Mike Davis. Thank you, Coach Tice. We'll see you next time.